She was 10 feet from the helicopter when he appeared. A man, filthy and desperate, stumbled out from behind the hangar fence. "Don't get in!" His voice tore through the roar of the spinning rotors. Victoria Hayes stopped mid-step, her designer heels clicking against the tarmac. Security rushed forward immediately. The man's clothes were caked in dirt, his face unshaven, eyes wild with panic. He wasn't reaching for her purse. He wasn't asking for money. He was pointing at the helicopter. "Please, don't get in. Something's wrong." Her assistant stepped between them. The pilot waved from inside the cockpit. Everything looked normal. Everything looked safe. "My closest friend said I'll not get up to 1,000 views and 100 likes on this video. Can we prove them wrong? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos." Victoria's head of security grabbed the man's arm. "Sir, you need to leave now." The man struggled against his grip. "I'm not asking for money. Listen to me. The helicopter, it's not safe." Victoria glanced at her watch. She had a board meeting in San Francisco in 2 hours. This was costing her time. "Ma'am, I'll handle this," the security chief said. "Just another transient from the encampment down the road." Victoria nodded and turned back toward the helicopter. Behind her, she heard the man's voice crack. "They're going to kill you. I heard them talking." A few onlookers from the private airfield had gathered, watching with curiosity and disgust. One woman whispered to her companion, "How did he even get in here?" But the man wouldn't stop. "The pilots! Last night I was sleeping under the maintenance shed. I heard them." His voice was hoarse, frantic. Victoria paused and turned slightly. There was something in his tone that didn't sound rehearsed, didn't sound like the usual pleas she ignored on city streets. The security chief tightened his grip. "Sir, if you don't leave, I'm calling the police." The man's eyes locked onto Victoria's. "They said your name, Victoria Hayes. They said the engine would fail over the lake. They said it would look like an accident." Her blood went cold. The assistant beside her scoffed. "Ma'am, this is ridiculous. He's clearly disturbed." But Victoria didn't move. "What exactly did you hear?" The man swallowed hard. "I've been staying under the shed for 3 weeks. Last night, around midnight, 2 men came out. One of them said something about disabling a safety valve. The other one laughed and said you'd never see it coming." Victoria stared at him. Her mind raced. She'd received threats before, business rivals, disgruntled former employees, but this felt different. Still, she was Victoria Hayes. She didn't let fear dictate her decisions, and she certainly didn't let homeless men derail her schedule. "Thank you for your concern," she said coldly, "but my pilots have been with me for years. I trust them completely." She turned and walked toward the helicopter. The man shouted after her, "Please, just check the engine. That's all I'm asking." The security chief dragged him backward. The man grabbed the metal railing leading up to the helipad, his knuckles white. "You're making a mistake." Victoria climbed the first step. The co-pilot opened the door for her, smiling. "Ready when you are, Miss Hayes." She glanced back one last time. The beggar was on his knees now, being restrained by 2 security officers. His eyes met hers. And for the first time in years, Victoria Hayes felt doubt. She stopped at the helicopter door. "Wait." The co-pilot's smile faltered. "Ma'am?" Victoria turned to her head of security. "Bring him here." The security chief looked confused. "Ma'am, I really don't think—" "Bring him here, now." Reluctantly, the officers dragged the man forward. Victoria studied him closely. His hands were calloused, dirty, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "You said you heard them talking. Describe them." The man took a shaky breath. "One was tall, maybe 6'2", dark hair, scar on his left hand. The other was shorter, bald, spoke with an accent. Eastern European, I think." Victoria's stomach dropped. That was an exact description of her pilot and co-pilot. She turned to the helicopter. Both men were watching now, their expressions carefully neutral. "Step out," she ordered. "Both of you." The pilot's jaw tightened. "Miss Hayes, we're on a schedule. I said step out." They climbed down slowly. Victoria gestured to her security team. "Check the engine, every inch of it." 20 minutes later, the head mechanic emerged from under the helicopter's engine housing. His face was pale. "Miss Hayes, you need to see this." He held up a small metal component. "This valve was deliberately loosened. It would have caused a catastrophic pressure failure about 15 minutes into flight, right over Lake Michigan."
The words hung in the air like smoke. Victoria felt her knees weaken. The co-pilot bolted. He made it 10 feet before security tackled him to the ground. The pilot didn't run. He just stood there, staring at the tarmac. Victoria turned to the beggar. He was still standing there, trembling, his eyes filled with exhaustion and relief. "How did you know?" she whispered. He wiped his face with a dirty sleeve. "I told you, I heard them. I didn't know what to do. I tried telling the airport staff yesterday, but they chased me off. I waited all night. I knew you'd be here this morning. I couldn't let it happen." Police arrived within minutes. The pilots were handcuffed and led away. The co-pilot was shouting, claiming it was a setup. The pilot said nothing. Victoria stood in the middle of the tarmac, her hands shaking. Her assistant approached cautiously. "Ma'am, we should cancel the San Francisco meeting. We can reschedule." "No," Victoria said quietly. "I want to talk to him first." She walked over to the beggar. He was sitting on the curb now, his head in his hands. She knelt beside him, ignoring the dirt and oil staining the ground. "What's your name?" "Daniel." "Daniel, you saved my life." He looked up at her, his eyes wet. "I just did what anyone should do." Victoria shook her head. "No, most people wouldn't try. Most people would walk away." She stood and gestured to her security chief. "Get him cleaned up. Food, clothes, medical attention, whatever he needs. And I want him in a hotel tonight, a good one." 3 days later, Victoria stood in front of the press outside her office building. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. She raised a hand for silence. "I'm here to introduce someone. His name is Daniel Cruz. 3 days ago, he saved my life, not because he had anything to gain, but because he saw something wrong and refused to stay silent. We live in a world where we walk past people like Daniel every day. We ignore them. We dismiss them. I almost made that mistake, and it would have cost me everything." She turned to Daniel, who stood beside her in a new suit, looking uncomfortable but proud. "From today, Daniel will be working with our foundation to help others experiencing homelessness, because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that help can come from anyone, and everyone deserves to be heard." The cameras clicked, the reporters scribbled notes, and for the first time in years, Victoria Hayes understood what it meant to truly see someone. As they walked back inside, Daniel glanced up at the building. "Don't get in," he said quietly, a small smile on his face. Victoria laughed. "I won't, not without checking first." Would you have stopped? If someone you didn't know, someone society told you to ignore, begged you to listen, would you have turned around, or would you have walked away? Stories like these need to be heard. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Life Tales. We're building a community that believes every voice matters. Join us.